Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to TCG University. It's me, Noah, here doing a deck profile for Cementos for our campus championship, our first runner-up. Cementos is a 5 hand size, 31 health character with a static that says I get plus 1 hand size for every 3 face down foundations in my staging area, and then enhance, flip a foundation, ready a face down, and then enhance, my attack gets plus 1 damage for every 2 face down foundations in my stage. Moving on to attacks, we played 4 copies of Back Alley Haymaker. This card has stun. This card also builds me in a card or draws me a card, so I'm almost never a 5-hander, honestly. And if I go first, I'm a 5-hander. Generally, after that, I'm probably a 6 and an up-hander with the way this deck plays. We played 3 copies of Hardened Crusher. Response: after we play this card, our opponent flips a foundation. Super sick. And then enhance, we mill 2. If it deals damage at the end of our turn, we get to build it face down. So we're just putting a permanent face down into our staging area. Because we flip so many things, we're going to play 4 copies of Naval Laser Beam so we can unflip things and flip them again so we can get damage and speed as well. And the ability to have the Breaker 2 on a mid block is just pretty solid in general also. Or just to unflip foundations that are useful for later. We played 3 copies of Overhead Reversal. Throws are pretty nice, especially when we can give them big damage, and it also builds in a Zerodif Committed that we can just flip and ready, so it gives us another foundation to build in for free. And we played 3 copies of Hardened Jabbed, so we can pick up any face downs that we want to add back to hand for blocks, or to build with, or to attack with if they're attacks. And then we build the top card of our deck face down as well. More face downs. I think Earth is probably the best symbol that you want to play Cementos under. Because we play so many foundations that build attacks, or build cards, we also play 4 copies of Hardened Frenzy. So if this card's completely blocked, it builds down after it resolves, and then enhance, if I built a card, it gets 1 speed, 1 damage, which with Cementos generally means it's at least a 1, or it's a 5 high for 5 plus X amount of damage of how many face downs we built in, or we have flipped. Moving on to the foundation lineup, we played 3 copies of Brute Strength. Just so we can give damage to our attacks, and so we can keep ourselves out of deadlock if we really need to. Generally, though, in a closed format like the Campus Championship, deadlock's not terrible. In an more open format, deadlock might be bad, but even still, I think this character can survive pretty well. We played 3 copies of Someone with Style, again, to keep us out of deadlock, and also that had the ability to reduce speed on things, so it's easier to block. Speed is always going to be an issue, so being able to reduce speed to 0 is nice. We played 3 copies of You're So Obvious because being able to reset speed or damage on an attack is just generally good, so we don't eat a lot. 3 copies of Learning the Standards. That way we can disrupt combo decks. Generally is the only reason, and it flips itself, which is super nice. 3 copies of Glamorous, so we can unflip foundations that we would want to keep, that we want back, and the ability to give our attack speed if they've been negged, so it's easier just to push them through a bit more. We're playing under Earth, so we play 4 copies of Super Regen. That way, if we lose any health, we can gain it right back. We can face tank things if need be, and it flips itself because now it adds to our damage count or our hand size count. Play 3 copies of Harden. We're playing a lot of Harden based attacks, so plus 3 damage to those attacks is really nice, plus the ability to block and -2 on the next attack when it comes to damage is also really good. And because we're playing Harden, there's no reason we don't play Manly Passionate Guy, especially if we're playing under Earth, so we can block with foundations, flip this and build them down, and now we have another flip foundation. The whole goal of this deck is to flip foundations. 4 copies of Shock Absorption so we can get around those pesky, really fast attacks. We played 4 copies of Manly Friendship so we can neg 1 damage or add 1 damage to our attacks or minus it on their attacks. At worst, we can flip it to restand something or itself. We played 3 copies of High Value Target. I think it's really good to play any character with a low hand size just so it's easier to block things because this counts as 2 foundations when committing to pass checks for blocks, which is super cool. And it can be targeted for a destroy effect over others. 3 copies of Celebrity Status so we can stack our momentum. That way it flips itself, which is super cool. That way we can draw attacks if we need to draw attacks. We played 4 copies of Battle Resolve. It flips itself, but it also does neg 3 speed for committing 2 copies of it, which isn't terrible. 3 copies of Tight Lip because some foundations we just can't flip ourselves, and Tight Lip will do it for us. Plus the extra damage is nice. 4 copies of It Can't Be Fixed. Again, another foundation that flips itself. As a response, if they stun this or stun me out to any degree, I can just flip this and build another one face down, increasing the hand size and damage. And then we play 4 copies of Internship with Best Genist. If we play it, we can mill a card, and my opponent flips one of their foundations, which being able to limit the amount of cards that they're able to use in their staging area is really good. That's the Cementos deck. This character is super gnarly in my opinion. I think he can really snowball heavily if the opponent can't get the damage on fast enough. I think there were a few solid games where I would be a 7-hander on average, but there was a few where I get the exception to be like an 8, 9, maybe 10. Hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. Like, comment, subscribe, and as James would say, stay learnt.